Good morning, Megan.
Good morning, Mom. Welcome to Sacred Soul Mornings. We're here with Mom in my house.
Yay.
And
so
we're
happy.
we're on chapter 9 of the Tao Te Ching.
Mhm.
We are going week by week in a living meditation, trying to find some peace in this ancient book.
Yeah. And I know I was thinking, as we've talked about this previously this morning a little bit, and it didn't dawn on me, but I'm remembering from taking studying literature in college and about even mythological literature. And I remember the professor emphasizing to us that we get out of what we read and what we study, what our circumstances bring to the plate. Each individual person can get different things out of. And that's what's so fun about Megan and I doing this together, because we can read this little section about chapter 9, letting go. And I'm getting one thing out of it, and she's getting not opposing things, but a different angle out of it. And then we kind of go, oh, yeah. And so that's been part of the fun of this for me.
And
anyway,
what's fun about that, too, is that this book, and like many other books where there's breadcrumbs of hope, is they never get old. You can pick them up and read them year after year after year after year, and then you see what you need in it at that time.
And read it, yeah. So like 10 years from now or whatever, read it again. It's like, oh, I didn't get that before. Or 5 years from now or next week. But anyway,
and it doesn't
here we
have
go.
to be holy texts.
Yeah.
Like these are the holy texts. It could also even be that's about Spider-Man. Spider-Man or Dune. Dune is what got us this week.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So yeah. So the chapter, I'll read it out of mine. Letting go, which, frankly, every single chapter is like the exact same thing in this book. They all build on top of each other, and you don't even have to read them in order, and you can just start at the end or just open it to wherever you feel like, and they're all applicable. Last time was about the water.
The water.
This time is letting go. It's the same thing. So letting go is better than filling to the brim. A blade overly sharpened does not last long. All stuffed with gold and jade, none can preserve. Wealth, rank, pride, all bring calamity. The Tao of heaven and nature is to accomplish and to withdraw.
And so here we go again, finding balance.
And here we go again, and what we got from this for us for this whole week. And this changing lives, changing lives, changing generations, being open to learning. So the Tao Te Ching. So this Lao Tzu guy, he was fed up. He was fed up. This was pre-Jesus, about 600 years pre-Jesus, maybe. Same time as like Plato and Socrates. He was fed up with political systems, and he was fed up with the materialism and capitalism, probably of their society, and ranks and stuff. And he said, I'm out of here on my donkey. Yeah. And he came up with these breadcrumbs. Of hope to have a more peaceful existence. So how did we let go? What did you find?
Well, I'm not going to look at this right now, what I wrote down the other day, because I'm kind of seeing things a little bit differently. I know we were taking care of some business this morning in the car and driving down this. Can I tell that story about driving down that affluent street?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And as a passenger, it's so fun to ride as a passenger.
Yeah, when probably not looking like you are.
And you're used to just driving yourself from place to place. So we're driving down the street, and old houses. I don't know how old some of those houses are. 1800s. Yeah. Like early 19th century houses. And so I was riding by one, and beautiful kind of a light green house, pleasant green. And I noticed like a Florida room, very well taken care of, ornate trimmings on the house. And then later down the house or whatever, you could see the shade was still down on one room. And briefly at first I was thinking, oh golly, if I lived in that house, I would be having my tea and I would be having my crumpets. No,
You'd be happy.
Tea, and I think I would be happy in that house. And then I was thinking, you know what? Probably someone lives in there by him or herself, and they might not feel any different than I feel probably it would be the same. If I lived in that house right now with my circumstances, I would feel no different than I live in the house I do live in. It's not just about the house. But anyway, and then we went on, Megan and I were talking this morning, what we were talking about. Oh golly, we talked about so many things.
So
But let me zero this down. And we were talking about what if we just lived completely by ourselves?
Yeah.
Would we want to like it completely by ourselves?
We were joking. We are like, if the rapture came and we didn't make it,
something like that. So we were there. Left. So there's that beautiful green house that I'm talking about. Would I even want to live there? And my thought was, no.
No, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't want to. So then I'm thinking about Lao releasing all that stuff, all that stress that things and possessions and extra sharpening of the blade or whatever brings us. He just let it go. And yes, to find that peace anyway there.
It's fun to play that mental game to get a check on what's going on, a reality check in your mind, because there is definitely a culture of striving that has never left humanity, I suppose, since Lao Tzu is writing about this, and we're still writing about it, and it is really an easy trap to fall into for all of us. But it has to do with other people.
It does have to. By yourself, it's not there.
Well, like that house thing, like it's easy for about to think maybe for 10 seconds of the game, because I enjoy beautiful things.
I do too. I'm not going to let them go.
I love
not everything. Yeah.
And I think I would enjoy living in something that's beautiful, where I don't have to go, well, that linoleum's really bothering me. I mean, seriously. Or going, oh my gosh, it'd be so much more peaceful if I had a larger window in this room and it wasn't so dark, or I don't know, just like very basic things. I really wish that this did not have mold on it, or this nasty bathroom. We'll just keep going down.
And somebody else clean it for me.
Somebody else clean it. And if everybody disappeared and I was it, I might walk around my little city a little bit and look at inside people's homes out of nosiness. But if I realize I'm the only one that's left with all the trees and the animals, I'm going to want a much warmer, smaller house with carpets on the floor, so my feet are not cold. And the big drafty house is not safe feeling.
And probably too, in that kind of scenario, I would want to be out among the living trees. I would want to be out among the little squirrels running around and that kind of thing.
I want a hobbit hole.
So anyway, so this is where some of our thinking, this as we're studying together and pulling into our thoughts everything that we have read in the past, and kind of synthesizing it together and also recognizing that struggles and strife is nothing new, and it cycles around. And we were talking a little bit about that this morning too.
Well, that's part of this.
About being in the flow.
But that's part of this too, because there is an element of not just letting go, like non-attachment, and letting go of the striving for things or rank or whatever. It's that there is also the idea that it is a pattern. It's a cyclic pattern on a global scale and in our individual lives. And you have to be okay with the fact that sometimes you are on the upper end of whatever you think that is, as well as the lower end of whatever you think it is. So like at the end of this in chapter 9, it says, the Tao of heaven and nature, which is everything, the seen and the unseen, it's just that force that defines all, that's aware, is to accomplish and to withdraw.
Yeah.
It's both. And so we were watching this new series on TV, well, on Amazon Prime, House of David, so about David in the Old Testament. And we're so lucky to live in this time period with people who are artists, who are putting these things into art so that there's a new form of these stories being told, so they're not gone, because everybody doesn't like to read. But with Saul, so the people wanted a king, right? If you don't know that, people wanted a king, pretty much the Tao, God. The spirit was like, you don't need kings. That's a pattern, if you haven't noticed, that you don't really need kings. I mean, it's true. We say it in all these books. And they were like, we really want one. And so they were like, fine, we'll get you one. So Samuel the prophet,
selected
through
Saul. Yeah.
spirit Saul, and the spirit came upon him or whatever. When Saul stopped doing what he was supposed to be doing,
Mm-hmm.
Samuel pretty much let him know, hey, the spirit's lifted off of you now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
meaning there's an ebb and there's a flow. Now there were reasons why that happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because like this, like the literal spirit withdrew. I think it was more his awareness withdrew of him being in line.
Yeah, very well could have been, as we've been
Mhm.
thinking and talking
And
about that.
yeah. And so when we were reading this, it's easy to think of like, it talks about the hall stuff of gold and jade, wealth, rank, and pride all bring calamity. Okay. So there's this history of people who go down this spiritual path of seeking poverty, right? We've got our monks, we've got our people living in convents. We've got Saint Francis. He had stuff. And then he was like, I'm going to be naked and leave it. But he had it first. And then there's like even Lao Tzu. He was like,
I'm
living
fed
it
up with it. I'm
and
done
then
with
leaving it.
it.
So there's always been a little element, though, of me going, well,
I kind of like some of my stuff.
no, it just might be
Oh,
easy
sorry.
to have it and then give it up. That's different than not having it, clawing to it and then give it up. I mean, you know what I mean? Like when you don't have it,
right?
The security, that's a different feeling, but that's also just a big farce too. It's a distraction, but it's easy to think of like King Saul and all his gold and how it's not important in that rank, because what happens is pretty much they're not, he didn't listen to God and they decided to keep some stuff, women, sheeps, things like that, sheeps, gold, and look at it. And that made him, do anything to keep it, maintain it, to acquire it to a level that was ego driven, to where he'd kill his own son. That's nuts. Right. So that's why the spirit left. So, but for us as women in this culture, in our culture that we grew up in, it's hard for me to identify with that. I'm very empathetic. I can watch movies about it. I can watch leaders on the news, but I don't get it. I don't feel it.
That competitiveness, I've got to have it over everybody else.
Yeah,
over all
to the
these
level
other
that I
people.
will kill my son to be king. Like that's just so bizarre to me that you would do that to even. But that's because I don't even think we had the opportunity to reach heights. And when you've been squished down so long, you just kind of go, I don't know. So for us, though, it doesn't mean we're immune to this. It means it takes a different form. And so we were thinking about, is it okay if I talk about Easter?
Please do. Because
so this
I'm kind
year,
of going down a different little
you can't
pathway.
So this year of letting go, this year, Easter and my birthday fell on the same day. Yay, that's so fun. We had so fun.
Well, that part was.
And we celebrate Easter culturally.
Yeah. Easter eggs.
Yeah,
Easter
I mean, there's a pagan root, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how there's a bunny related to Jesus, but it's okay. I don't care. I don't discriminate. Don't care. We enjoy the party. So we hid eggs and we had food and we had a cake and everything. But the whole time, I was so busy, again, like every holiday that happens in this house, and I love them, but every single holiday, I was so busy, again, that by the time we got outside,
worn out.
I'm like, yay, you all jump in those bags. I'm going to sit here on my butt. And it wiped me out to a level that I was like, what are we even doing?
That's what moms do. I'm
I
sorry.
know, that's what moms do. Why do moms do that? Because people are watching. Who's watching? The children are watching. The other moms are watching.
Yeah.
The other people are watching.
And we want to do things for our kids, but
future people that we haven't even met, like in-law children, our kids aren't even ready to get married, are watching this. Like, did your mom have a nice holidays? And so that's just as silly as the men and storing up gold. Is I'm stressing myself out beyond belief to get all the Easter decorations up for one day of the year. So that everybody can feel it's okay. Feel like they had that memory of that instead of being more simplistic.
Yeah.
And that's when it says here, like a blade overly sharpened does not last long. When you've done what is needed, stop.
Yeah. Like the cup.
Yeah.
Analogy.
A cup that is filled to the brim and then more is added spills over.
It's a waste.
It's a waste of energy.
and effort, and probably not even appreciated by whoever you're trying to do it in front of or for. Not appreciated for the overflow.
Well, no.
Yeah.
And even the kids, they have a great time, but at the same time, you know, there's this undercurrent of, Mom, are you okay? Are you okay?
Mhm.
And I'm like, yes, I'm fine. I'm happy. I love this. It's a happy day.
it.
This is great ham.
She did do a good job.
No, but yeah. So
Mhm.
that continuous desire to have stuff is for real.
And to meet other people's
Expectations,
expectations.
the obligation.
It's kind of that competitiveness that reading about in that other book that I didn't bring out
The
here this
courage
time.
to be disliked about Adlerian psychology.
Mhm.
Yes, you have to be okay with being disliked because we have a tendency to see each other as competitors, as enemies, meaning all humanity, instead of
Comrades. Or friends.
comrades.
He used the word comrade, but
So
friends.
even front yards,
Oh,
even front yards.
yeah.
We've been working our front yard and it's beautiful
It
and I
is
love
beautiful.
it and it's gorgeous.
A lot of work.
But there's an element to the front yard that is, even me, I go out and I go, look at my front yard. I love those. I love that edging. It's really nice. And I go, it's better than that person's edging. And I'm a decent person.
And she doesn't say it out
in my
loud.
head. It sneaks in my head really
She's
fast.
like doing a confession right now because she doesn't really say that out loud.
Really, no.
She's
but
not that kind of
everybody
person.
does that.
Yeah,
everybody does it. And if you want to act like you don't,
you're not being truthful.
well, you're just blind to yourself.
Or that.
Otherwise, if I was by myself in a field, would I be hauling cinder blocks to put edging around flowers?
Right.
Would I be hauling? We added this up. It was almost 2 tons of weight in the back of my car to go in the front of the house. Would anybody haul to whatever, like thousands of pounds of rock and sand and cinder blocks
just to be prettier than somebody?
But nobody else will be there.
Yeah.
For the bunnies.
Oh, out in the field.
Like for the bunnies, would anybody do that?
Yeah.
No.
It's true.
That's all. What you got?
I'll just go down through my list a little bit because
I got some other commentaries whenever, but
well, one thing, well, my simple little version of it said this chapter of the Tao, letting go, emphasizes the importance of moderation and the potential for harm and excessive accumulation and display. So just kind of re-emphasizing again how this is shown over and over again in our culture and our society, past cultures and past societies like
humanity,
the culture
of humanity.
Yeah. And I know when I was reading this, I don't know how many people have watched this show called Hoarders, right? But I've watched the show and it helps me clean up at home. When I watch it, it's like, oh, I need to start cleaning out some stuff in that closet.
It's so popular in this country is we all have a tendency a little bit.
People that have that, that are really,
we know people like that.
Yeah, we know people like that, but really into that, and they don't mean for it to be so accumulative. And so it is part of human nature. So I am grateful when I read a message that like Lao has written down, and it lets me know, okay, maybe I need to step back a little bit and well, I keep talking about go for a walk in nature and get myself centered again to be peaceful in whatever circumstance I am in. We're in circumstances.
And it's okay to let go of the stuff.
And it's okay
because none of it's gonna
and like
go with us.
And me traveling up here to be with my family here, I had to leave my family there. I wanted to come up here, but then that changed that situation down there of me having to try to impress people with external expectations.
But anyway,
so then I brought it up here. Yeah, then we got to do it up here. Yeah,
we all take pictures of it.
Was
document
me.
We take pictures to document it for the imaginary people are going to look at the album later, someday, 30 years later. It's just absolutely crazy, and we recognize this.
Yeah.
And if we carried the computer or the camera around my house, I don't have a Taoist house right now. This is an out of control house.
3 children.
Yeah.
and a working mom and a
and
working dad.
and the desire to accrue things, because when you make yourself so busy thinking I've got to do this, I've got to do this, even at the level of being a mommy, and I work full time, my own thing, yeah. But when you're constantly doing this, you think that you deserve it. You go, this is the only way I'm going to feel happy is if I pick up this item at Goodwill, because I deserve to have this thing. It's mine.
Yeah.
And then you bring it home and you have one more thing to dust.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even you never dust it, you just look at it and go, I'm not dusting it. And then you feel bad. Whereas if we could just set it all on fire.
So I will say this, I'm kind of diverging off just a
better
teensy
stop
bit.
trying to get more.
So I'm thinking of
freed by the Tao.
So we, as females, are trying to connect with how do men, traditionally, how can they go out and kill, and plunder like they did in the Old Testament days?
Yeah, I don't know.
To gather things and power and people and all that kind of stuff. So we're trying to empathize with that, I think, by using our experiences that we have.
Because it's the same root.
So anyway, and so don't think we're just being frivolous about worrying about our things in our house and the dust and and whatever, or cooking meals. It's we recognize a similar root of it.
Well, yeah, because if it meant that I could have more, I mean, if I had the power, and maybe I do, and I'll work on that. This is all just us working through these things. We don't know. It's not a right or wrong way. But if I had the power to where if I worked harder and I got to be important society-wise and I got to have that house down there, would I be doing it right now? Probably. Yeah. But society is a little different that way. So,
Yeah. So should we go on? You got another thought?
No, you can go on.
I don't know. I mean, this is like, I went through the things I wrote down like a week ago. So it's kind of like, but anyway, same. Anyway, how do we justify, these are my thoughts, but how do we justify in our hearts the accumulation of things like money, land, power to the detriment of others? And then how we kind of justify that in our minds, I think, is by calling them enemies.
That's the only way you can justify your mind, is by calling them enemies. I can't figure out how else.
And so then what made me think of this, because we watched, not just because, thinking about many things. I won't get into specifics about that.
Politics.
But watching like Moses movie and
we watched the Ten Commandments,
and some of these other things, and making connections with, these patterns kind of repeat over and over.
Well, yes.
With humanity on this earth. And so I think of the genocides described in biblical stories when I said that. How is that justified? And so then there's different ways of thinking about it. But anyway, I don't know. That's what I was thinking about the other day.
According to Adlerian psychology and according to common sense, the only way that you can take stuff from people and not feel bad about it is through justification.
Yeah.
And you will figure out any way to justify it so that you don't drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
Your ego is there and will protect you like none other, if that's what you want to do. And so, yes, the things you're talking about genocide in the past, but even genocide now, we have countries going through genocidal type things. We can't ignore that. We have people who are being demonized again for skin color. We just keep rotating around who that is. That justifies taking their stuff because you want more stuff.
Yeah. And what else can there be?
Nobody ever makes, I don't think anyone, even our serial killers, we always have to go to this level.
Extreme. We go to the extreme.
Eat people.
But they're here. They've done it.
Because I'm like, what about those people?
Yeah.
What about the serial killers that eat people for fun? They justify it in their brains somehow. No one does that without feeling justified. Now, it may not make sense to me. It may not make sense to you.
But somehow they
justify it. And and it's hard for me to not worry myself about them too much, because the reality is internal. The Tao's no respecter of persons, meaning their justification as correct in their minds as my justification is correct in my mind, because it's a world in your mind. And I have to deal with my own changing.
And so then,
It's not about morality.
yeah. However,
It's about trusting the balance.
yes.
However, what?
Now I'm thinking of animals.
Well, that's, yeah.
And I'm thinking of marmots.
I know.
And so marmots.
Yellow-bellied one?
Yeah, the yellow-bellied
Okay.
ones. Or is that the animal?
I don't know,
But
just
if
make
some
it up.
little
They're not varmints.
bad marmot.
I thought they were saying varmints.
I do too.
Yeah.
But anyway, but we learned. But anyway, and they are so cute. But anyway, what if one is really acting ugly?
Oh, I talk about meerkats like this all the time. Oh my gosh, I talk about
They're
meerkats
kind of
all
like
the time.
marmots.
Yeah, but I mean that, like, there's some natural consequences in balance. So yes, that's what they're talking about in here. You know, the Tao Te Ching is talking about, you know, heaven and earth have this balance of waxing and waning and ebb and flowing. And so we individually are not the determiners of that and don't need to be, because the whole is in control of this waxing and waning and ebbing and flowing. So it is hard for us to know in our own little eyeballs what is right and wrong because of the animals, such as like the meerkats. Okay, the meerkats, if you've got one, I use this with humanity all the time. If you have a community of meerkats and one meerkat is over there by himself and he's rabid and he's doing really mean things to other meerkats, they don't let him come back in. They say, no, you're being really bad. We don't like you. And they might even like primates do this.
Yeah.
If
somebody's disrupting the whole
but
community.
And so we can't worry about the balance because the balance happens. And so even some of these Old Testament stories that we get like Saul. Okay, so so God anointed Saul. Yeah, and then he went and he killed all these people.
Yeah.
And you're like,
but he didn't kill his captain or whatever didn't kill all of them.
I know.
Like he should have.
Like he should have killed all of them, but he didn't.
I guess. That's weird saying that, doesn't it? But anyway.
It's hard it's hard in our limited view to justify that there could be things that we don't like that are part of the whole.
Yeah.
Because I personally cannot put myself in a position of doing some of those things.
Yes.
But that's okay. Because like if we think of like Dharma, the idea of Dharma and that there's archetypes and that all of us are an archetype. And there's a balance to it, and that there's a cycle to it on an individual level and on a collective level. That we have different dharmas, different purposes. Like we have purposes. The educator dharma, the
warrior dharma.
Yeah.
And there's five basic ones that someone defines.
And they rotate in society. So you might have a time period that is more educator led, and then you might have one that's more merchant led.
Laborer,
warrior. And so those parts of the body balance things out.
All those work together to be one whole. And one is not more important than the other, and they complement each other. There's that balance again.
But I don't need to worry about that myself for my purpose.
Yes.
So, because for my purpose,
we're kind of working on that.
That's not, you talked about the intuition last time and the compass. It's not that you're trying to figure out what the right decision is or the wrong decision 50-50. It's that you're trusting that your compass is pointing north because you're aware of who you are. You're aware that you are a vessel for God or the Tao or everything. It's the awareness of that. So then your compass is always pointing north no matter what choice you make.
And there's comfort in that.
There's comfort in that. And I don't know what the ramifications are of that as you keep going. But that's the only way these breadcrumbs lead you to find some peace for the type of people who are the archetype that need the breadcrumbs. Because some archetypes don't even need it. We talk about the body, how we're all part of the body, like in the Bible, and how the hand doesn't know the other hand or whatever. Well, I'm not putting anybody down, okay? But we're going to use the body analogy. Some people are eyelash hairs. Some people are toenails. They're important. But are they aware that they're part of the body? No. And they die that way. And it's okay.
It doesn't mean they're less. They are important.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that the eyeball is any more important. But some you can continue to live with and some you can't.
Here we go again.
I know it never
Okay.
ends. But the purpose of living is that it's living. What is my purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Living.
Yeah, that's it, period.
My eyes are open, live.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there's any obligations put on that externally that lead to this unbalance that we find and why you need to let go or not be miserable, it's because those external obligations are ego built and need to be balanced.
So Lao said, let it go.
Because you might as well enjoy living. You don't want to be at the end and go, what did I do?
Go out.
Not what I wanted.
Talk to the birds.
Keep watching for part 2 of letting go and practical applications on how to find more peace in your life by letting go.